My dad demanded I lie for him in court. When I refused, he cut me off and tried to ruin my life, but I made sure he faced the consequences. I never thought my own father would cut me out of his life. I always knew he wasn't a great person. He could be selfish, manipulative, and had a bad habit of making terrible decisions. But I never thought he'd look me in the eye, ask me to commit perjury, and then act like I was the villain when I said no. But that's exactly what happened. I'm 28M, and my dad, let's call him Mark, is 52M. My parents divorced when I was young, and I primarily grew up with my mom. My dad was around, but he wasn't exactly father of the year. He was the kind of guy who'd make big promises, then conveniently forget them. He'd show up late to my birthdays, miss school events, and always had some dramatic excuse for why he couldn't be there when I needed him. Still, I tried to have a relationship with him. Even as an adult, I gave him way too many chances, until he finally gave me a reason to walk away for good. It all started with a phone call. I hadn't heard from him in a few weeks, which wasn't unusual. Mark only ever reached out when he wanted something, so when I saw his name pop up on my phone, I already had a bad feeling. "Hey kid," he said, his tone all fake warmth. "How's life treating you?" I sighed. "What do you need, Dad?" He let out a forced chuckle. "What, I can't just check in on my son?" I stayed silent. After a few awkward seconds, he dropped the act. All right. I need a favor." There it was. I rubbed my temples. "What kind of favor?" He hesitated. "So, you know I've been dealing with some legal issues, right?" Oh, I knew. My dad had been in and out of court for years. Mostly business lawsuits, sketchy financial dealings, and a couple of DUIs. But he always managed to weasel his way out of trouble, until now. "I need you to testify for me," he said. I frowned. "Testify? About what?" His tone got way too casual. Just back me up on a few things. Help clear my name. I felt my stomach drop. "Dad, what did you do?" He sighed dramatically. "Nothing serious. Just some misunderstandings with an old business partner. He's claiming I scammed him out of money, but you and I both know that's ridiculous." I stayed silent. Because, actually, it wasn't ridiculous at all. My dad had been involved in shady business deals for as long as I could remember. He had a habit of finding loopholes in contracts, pushing ethical boundaries, and taking money that wasn't his. And now? It had finally caught up to him. "Dad," I said slowly, "what exactly do you want me to say?" He hesitated again. "Just tell the court that I never borrowed money from him, that I never promised him anything, that he's making it all up." I blinked. "Wait, but didn't you borrow money from him?" Mark scoffed. "That's not the point. The point is, he doesn't have proof. If you testify that I never agreed to anything, it'll be his word against ours." I felt sick. "Dad, that's perjury," his tone snapped. "Don't be dramatic." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're literally asking me to lie under oath?" Mark sighed like I was being difficult on purpose. "Look, it's not a big deal. It's just a little white lie to help your old man out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "A white lie?" I repeated. "Dad, you could go to prison for this. I could go to prison for this." "You won't," he said quickly. "They'll believe you. You've got a clean record, a respectable job. You'll come off as trustworthy." I was speechless. Not only was my dad asking me to commit a crime, but he was counting on my good reputation to help him get away with his lies. And the worst part? He genuinely didn't see the problem. I took a deep breath. "No." Silence. Then, "No," Mark repeated, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "That's right," I said firmly. "I'm not lying for you." There was a long, tense pause. Then his tone turned cold. "Wow, so after everything I've done for you, you can't even do this one small thing for me?" I clenched my jaw. "Dad, what exactly have you done for me?" He scoffed. "I raised you." "No, Mom raised me," I cut in. "You were barely around, and when you were making bad choices and expecting everyone else to clean up the mess." "That's not fair," he snapped. "I always tried my best." I shook my head. "No, Dad, you didn't." Silence. Then, "You're just like your mother," he said bitterly. "Always judging me, always acting like you're better than me." I exhaled slowly. "I'm not better than you. I just have a conscience." Mark let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Well, enjoy your perfect little conscience, kid. But don't expect anything from me ever again." I frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" He spat out his next words. "You're dead to me." I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because of how pathetic it was. "So, let me get this straight," I said. "You want me to lie in court, risk my career, and potentially go to prison for you, and because I said no, You're cutting me out of your life?" "Damn right," he sneered. I shook my head. "That's the easiest decision I've ever made." Mark was silent. I think, for the first time, he realized his threat wasn't landing the way he wanted. But I was done. "You're gonna regret this," he muttered. "No," I said. "You are." And then I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. No follow-up calls, no apologies, just silence. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I had finally escaped his chaos. But I was wrong. Because a few weeks later, I found out exactly how far my dad was willing to go to save himself. After I refused to lie for my dad in court, I thought that was the end of it. I thought he'd cut me off, maybe rant about me to some relatives, and then sulk in silence while he faced the consequences of his own actions. But I underestimated him, because instead of just letting me walk away, he decided to make me his next target. At first, it was just annoying messages. A few days after our last phone call, I started getting anonymous texts. "You made a big mistake. Family should come first. People who betray their own blood don't end up happy." At first I thought it was a scam. Then I realized it was my dad. I ignored the messages, but they kept coming. Then, one night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was just heavy breathing, followed by a muttered, "You'll regret this." I actually laughed, because at this point, Mark wasn't just a terrible father, he was a cartoon villain. Then came the family drama. I didn't realize how far my dad was willing to go until I started hearing from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. First, it was my aunt. "I heard you abandoned your father. What's wrong with you?" Then my cousin. "Your dad's in serious trouble and you won't even lift a finger to help? Cold man." Even my grandmother, who never got involved in drama, left me a voicemail saying she was disappointed in me. It didn't take long to figure out what had happened. Mark had gone on a full-blown smear campaign. He called everyone, spinning this bullshit story about how his ungrateful son had betrayed him in his time of need. He painted himself as the victim, claiming he was wrongfully accused and that I had turned my back on family. And the worst part, some people actually believed him. One day my mom called me. Now for context, my mom and dad have been divorced since I was a kid. She knows exactly what kind of person he is. But even she was shaken by how low he was sinking. "I got a call from your uncle," she said. "Apparently your father is telling people you're trying to ruin his life." I snorted. "He ruined his own life." Mom sighed. "I know that, but he's desperate. He's scared." I rolled my eyes. "Good. He should be." She hesitated. "I just don't want you to underestimate him. When Mark feels cornered, he lashes out." I should have taken that warning more seriously, because I had no idea what he was planning next. A few weeks later I got an official-looking letter in the mail. At first I thought it was related to work, but when I opened it I felt my stomach drop. It was a subpoena. My dad was actually forcing me to testify. I sat there, staring at the paper, trying to process what the hell I was looking at. My dad had accused me of withholding key information that could prove his innocence, which, in normal words, meant he was trying to force me to lie in court? I immediately called my lawyer. She was furious. "This is a scare tactic," she said. "He's hoping you'll panic and do what he wants." I clenched my jaw. "Yeah, well, that's never happening." She reassured me that I couldn't be forced to lie, but I would have to go to court, and if my dad thought this was his way of scaring me into helping him, he was about to be very disappointed. A month later I was sitting in the courtroom, watching my dad squirm in his seat. I hadn't spoken to him since our last phone call, but now we were in the same room, except this time, I was the one holding all the power. When I took the stand, I told the truth. I told the court about my dad's shady business deals. I told them how he had a history of manipulating people, and most importantly, I told them how he had tried to pressure me into committing perjury. My dad's lawyer tried to object, but the damage was done. The judge didn't look impressed, and Mark, for the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. After the trial, my dad lost. He was found guilty of fraud and ordered to pay a massive fine. And me? I was free. No more manipulations, no more guilt trips, no more pretending that Mark was anything but a selfish liar. I didn't hear from him again for months. Then, one day I got a final text. It was short. "I hope you're happy." I read it, laughed, and blocked his number. Because the truth, I was happier than ever. I thought that was the last I'd hear from him. That now that he'd lost, he'd finally give up. But then he tried one last desperate stunt to get back at me, and this time, he nearly ruined my life. After the trial, I thought my dad was finally out of my life. I thought he'd go crawl into whatever hole he came from and finally face the consequences of his own action. But Mark? Mark wasn't the type to accept defeat, and when he realized he couldn't manipulate me into saving him, he decided to destroy me instead. It started with the rumors. A few weeks after the court ruling, I started getting weird messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old classmates, former coworkers, even some acquaintances I barely knew. "Hey man, just heard some stuff about you. Hope you're okay." Dude, WTF is going on? Is it true what people are saying? At first, I had no idea what they were talking about. Then, my cousin sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post. It was from a burner account. No profile picture, no real name, just a brand new account that had been created days earlier. And the post? It was about me. The post claimed that I was a liar and a fraud, that I had stolen money from my own family, that I had betrayed my own father and left him to rot. It even implied that I had fabricated my testimony in court, that I had set my dad up because I was greedy and selfish. It was insane. And the worst part? People were believing it, because my dad had spent months setting the stage for this. See, when I refused to lie for him in court, he immediately went into damage control mode. He started calling up everyone he knew, feeding them stories about how I had turned on him and how I had always been untrustworthy. He told them that I was selfish, that I was heartless, that I had destroyed his life out of pure spite. And some people ate it up, because Mark was a master manipulator. He knew how to make himself look like the victim. And now he was turning the whole narrative against me. At first, I ignored it. I thought, whatever, this is pathetic, let him rant into the void. But then it got worse. Because suddenly, the rumors weren't just online, they were affecting my real life. A week after the post went up, I got called into a meeting at work. My boss, a no-nonsense guy who had always been supportive of me, sat me down and gave me a serious look. "I need to ask you something," he said. "Is there any truth to these claims?" I frowned. What claims? He slid his laptop across the desk, and there it was. Another anonymous email sent directly to my company. It accused me of embezzlement. It claimed that I had a history of financial fraud, and that I had been involved in illegal dealings, whatever the hell that meant. It even linked the burner account post as evidence. I was stunned. "This is a lie," I said immediately. "None of this is true." My boss nodded. I figured, but I had to ask. I let out a breath. "Who sent this?" He sighed. "It was anonymous, but I'm guessing you have an idea." Oh, I had a pretty good idea. This had Mark written all over it. I walked out of that meeting shaking with rage, because it wasn't just rumors anymore. My dad was actively trying to ruin my life. He wasn't content with just losing in court. He wanted to make sure that I lost too. I went straight to my lawyer. She took one look at the messages, the emails, and the posts and said, "This is defamation." I clenched my jaw. "Can we do anything about it?" She nodded. "Absolutely. We can sue." Now, here's the thing. I never wanted to take legal action against my own father. Even after everything he did to me, I still didn't want to go down that road, but at this point, he left me no choice. Because this wasn't just about me. This was about my entire future, my career, my reputation, and I wasn't going to let him take that away from me. The next day, my lawyer sent Mark a cease and desist letter. It was a warning. Shut up, or we take you to court. And for the first time since this all started, Mark panicked. He called me 6 times in a row. I didn't answer. Then he started texting. "Come on, you don't have to do this. This is just a misunderstanding. Are you really going to take your own father to court?" I ignored him, because at this point, I had nothing left to say to him. And then came the final message. A single text. Short. Simple. "Fine. You win." And just like that, he was gone. The next day, the burner accounts disappeared. The Facebook posts deleted. The rumors stopped. Mark went completely silent, because he finally realized I wasn't afraid of him anymore. And once a manipulator loses control over you, they have nothing left. That was the last time I ever had contact with my father. No apologies, no explanations, just silence. And honestly, that was the best thing he had ever given me. A year later, I heard through the grapevine that Mark had moved away. Apparently, he tried to start over in a new city. But here's the thing about people like him. They never change. In the months after he disappeared from my life, I felt this weight lift off my shoulders. For years, I had been waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the next phone call, the next lie, the next scheme. But now, there was nothing, just peace. And I didn't realize how much I needed it until I had it. At first, I didn't know what to do with my newfound freedom. I had spent so many years living in my father's shadow, constantly worrying about his messes, constantly bracing for the next problem he would create. But now I had my own life to focus on. I started pouring my energy into work without the stress of my dad lurking in the background. I actually started thriving in my career. I got a promotion, then another, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was actually in control of my future. I didn't have to worry about him showing up and ruining everything. I didn't have to worry about him dragging me down with him. I was free. But the best part? I finally had time for myself. I started traveling, reconnecting with old friends. I even started dating again. Because for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was constantly putting out fires. I didn't feel like I had to fix someone else's mistakes before I could live my own life. It was just me. And it felt amazing. Of course, Mark still existed somewhere out in the world. I heard bits and pieces through the grapevine. Apparently, he had moved to another city and was trying to start over. But here's the thing about people like him. They don't change, and within a few months, he was caught up in another scam, another fraud case, another disaster of his own making. And this time, I didn't feel anything. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. Because it wasn't my problem anymore. A year passed, then 2, then 3, and every day that went by I felt lighter, because I knew that no matter what happened to Mark, no matter how much trouble he got himself into, it had nothing to do with me. Then one day I got a phone call from a family member I hadn't spoken to in years. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. "Hey," they said, "I figured you'd want to know. Your dad's in trouble again." I let out a breath. Not my problem. There was a pause. No, I mean real trouble, legal trouble, bad trouble. I shrugged. Still not my problem. They hesitated. "You don't even care?" I laughed. "Nope." And I meant it. Because I had spent too many years cleaning up my father's messes, too many years waiting for him to change. But now I knew better. Some people never change, and the best thing I ever did was walk away. That was the last time I ever heard about Mark. I don't know where he is now. I don't know what happened to him, and I don't want to know. Because my life? It's better without him in it. Now, looking back, I sometimes wonder, did my dad ever regret what he did? Did he ever realize that he was the one who pushed me away? Or was he still out there, playing the victim, telling himself that I was the one who abandoned him? Honestly, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I finally learned the most important lesson of my life. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. It's about trust. It's about the people who actually care about you.